The door wasn't there yesterday. I'm sure of it. Hello, I'm Sarah, and I'm about to tell you a tale that will make you question the very fabric of reality. It's a story about a house, my house, that decided to play tricks on my sanity. And let me tell you, it's not the kind of trick that ends with a laugh and a high five. No, this is the kind that leaves you wide awake at 3 a.m., staring at the shadows on your ceiling, wondering if they've always moved like that. You see, I've always been a bit of a skeptic. Ghosts, monsters under the bed, things that go bump in the night. I'd roll my eyes at all of it. But that was before the door appeared, before my world turned upside down and inside out. And now? Well, now I'm not so sure about anything anymore. It all started on a Tuesday. Nothing special about Tuesdays, right? Wrong. This particular Tuesday decided to throw a curveball at me that would make even the most hardened horror movie protagonist break out in a cold sweat. I remember it like it was yesterday, probably because I haven't slept much since then. I had just moved into this charming little Victorian house on Maple Street. You know the type, all gingerbread trim and stained glass windows. It was a steal, really. Should have known better, right? When something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But there I was, feeling like I'd won the lottery, unpacking my boxes and whistling a happy tune. The first week went by without a hitch. I was settling in nicely, getting to know the creaks and groans of the old house. Every old house has its quirks, I told myself. The way the stairs would sometimes creak when no one was on them. Just the wood settling. The occasional cold spot in the living room. Probably a draft. I had an explanation for everything. But then came that Tuesday. I woke up, stumbled downstairs for my morning coffee, and there it was. A door. A door that most definitely, absolutely, 100% was not there the night before. It stood at the end of the hallway, innocuous as you please, like it had always been there. But I knew better. I knew every inch of this house, had memorized every nook and cranny during my meticulous unpacking. And this door? It was new. So, I did what any sane person would do when confronted with an impossible door. I stared at it. For a good 5 minutes, I just stood there, coffee growing cold in my hand, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It was a simple door, really. Wooden, painted white to match the rest of the doors in the house. It even had the same kind of antique brass doorknob as the others. If I hadn't known better, I would have sworn it had always been there. But I did know better, and that's what made it so terrifying. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I decided to approach it. Each step felt like I was walking through molasses, my heart pounding so loud I was sure the neighbors could hear it. As I got closer, I noticed something odd. There was no gap between the door and the floor. It was like it had been painted onto the wall, a trompe-l'oeil meant to fool the eye. But when I reached out to touch it, my fingers met solid wood. It was real as the floor beneath my feet, as real as the goosebumps racing up my arms. I grasped the doorknob, cold metal biting into my palm, and tried to turn it. It didn't budge. Locked. Or maybe just stuck. I wasn't sure which option I preferred. I spent the rest of that day trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Maybe I had just overlooked it before. Maybe I was more stressed about the move than I thought, and my mind was playing tricks on me. I even called my realtor, casually asking about the layout of the house. She confirmed what I already knew. There was no door at the end of that hallway. That night, I barely slept. Every creak, every settling noise of the house had me bolt upright in bed, heart racing. I kept expecting to hear that door open, to see some nameless horror creep into my room. But nothing happened. The door remained closed, silent, mocking me with its impossible existence. The next morning, I half expected, hoped, really, that the door would be gone. that it had all been some vivid hallucination brought on by the stress of moving. But no such luck. There it stood, as real and solid as ever. And now, in the harsh light of day, I noticed something else. Something that made my blood run cold. There was a faint sound coming from behind the door, a low, rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat, or footsteps. I pressed my ear against the wood, holding my breath to hear better. Thump, thump, thump. It was definitely coming from the other side. But the other side of what? According to the layout of the house, there should be nothing but open air beyond that wall. I spent the next few days in a state of constant anxiety. I couldn't concentrate on work, couldn't enjoy my new home. My eyes kept darting to that door, expecting it to swing open at any moment. I even considered moving out. But the thought of trying to explain this to a new landlord or realtor seemed impossible. Who would believe me? A week after the door appeared, I finally worked up the courage to try and open it again. This time, armed with a set of lockpicks I'd ordered online. Don't ask. I set to work on the lock. It took hours, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the picks. But finally, I heard that blessed click. The door swung open and revealed nothing. Just the blank wall I knew should be there. No room, no monster, no portal to another dimension. Just wall. I laughed then, a hysterical sound that echoed through the empty house. Had I imagined it all? Was I going crazy? But then I noticed something. A faint line on the wall, right where the edge of the door had been. I ran my fingers along it, feeling a slight indentation. And as I did, I heard it again. That thumping sound. But this time, it wasn't coming from behind the wall. It was coming from inside the walls. I stumbled back, slamming the door shut. My mind was reeling, trying to make sense of what I'd just experienced. The door that wasn't there, but was. The room that didn't exist, but somehow did. The sound that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Since that day, I've been living in a state of constant unease. The door is still there, sometimes open, sometimes closed. Sometimes, late at night, I hear noises coming from it. Whispers, scratches, that endless thumping. I've tried to ignore it, tried to convince myself it's all in my head. But deep down, I know the truth. There's something in my house, something that shouldn't be here, something that defies all logic and reason. And it's waiting for me to let my guard down, to forget for just a moment that the impossible has become possible. So here I am, sharing my story with you. Maybe you think I'm crazy. Maybe you're right. But the next time you're in your home, take a good look around. Count the doors, and then count them again. Because you never know when a new one might appear. When the room that doesn't exist might decide to make itself known. As for me, well, I'm still here. Still living in this house with its impossible door and its phantom noises. Because as terrifying as it is, there's a part of me that needs to know, needs to understand. And who knows? Maybe one day I'll work up the courage to step through that door, to see what lies beyond. But until then, I'll be here, watching, waiting, and wondering what other impossibilities might be lurking just out of sight. So, the next time you hear an unexpected creak in your house, or notice a shadow that seems just a little off, remember my story. Remember the door that wasn't there yesterday. And ask yourself, what might be hiding in the spaces between what you know and what you do not? Sweet dreams. And don't forget to check your doors before you go to bed. You never know when a new one might appear.